Last week, Smudge and I talked with you about dandelions going to seed and how they reminded me of exploding love. It all seemed so positive and hopeful and on some level doable. Then the sad and painful events of this past week occurred. George Floyd killed with a police officer's knee on his throat, on top of Ahmaud Arbery's death as he jogged through a Georgia neighborhood, on top of our nation trying to safely reopen its economy even as masks are morphed into political statements, on top of a president who insists on a path cleared of protesters to a church for a photo op with a Bible in hand, and who would, it appears, willingly turn to the military and to violence to stop largely peaceful demonstrations. And so this week, I find myself reeling, feeling helpless, discouraged, and in some ways downright hopeless. My heart goes out to every black man who knows that there, but for the grace of God, it could have been him unable to breathe. And my heart goes out to every mother of color who fears daily for her children and grandchildren, for her siblings and parents and spouse. And at the same time, my head goes to the whys behind the racism and injustice that plague our nation, leaving so much anger, confusion, grief, and heartbreak in its wake. And I intuitively know that now is not the time to turn inward or away. Now is not the time to pretend that racism does not exist in our state, in our communities, in ourselves, no matter who we are. And so my head also goes to the what each one of us can do as we stand in solidarity with those calling for change, knowing in my heart of hearts that we all want to make the world a better place. I know there are some folks who believe that anything less than revolution or immediate major structural and societal change is irrelevant, useless, and hiding behind our white privilege. However, I think that Otto Kroger, that pioneer in the field of practical applications for psychological type, had the right idea when he said that when you are inundated with choices and don't know where to begin, just do something. I would echo his sentiments as we try as individuals, as little people who cannot singly bring about the sought-after immediate structural change, but still yearn to work our way out of the current painful miasma. Just do something. I would also say, as you figure out what that something might look like, draw on your strengths. If you are a preacher, then preach, and preach prophetically. Your congregation is looking to you for leadership in activating the gospel message in today's troubled world. If you are a writer, then write. Letters to the editor, op-eds, emails to your congressional delegation. If you are a school teacher, then teach children to be curious about, rather than to fear people who do not look or act like they do, or even believe what they believe. If you are a good listener, then engage adults, seeking to understand a different perspective, while at the same time reminding them that, in the end, we have far more in common with one another as human beings than we have differences. If you are a storyteller, then tell the stories of people of color. If you like data, then research and support businesses whose practices seek to narrow the income gap between the haves and the have-nots. If you are a protester, then protest, always nonviolently. But figure out what other strength you have to offer when the protests are over. And if you are a citizen of this country, then vote in November. The only way we will begin to heal as a nation is if we elect a president who seeks to unite rather than divide, who values democratic precepts over authoritarian principles, and whose first love is his country rather than himself. So go now in peace to that place that is special to you. Go and, like Otto Kroger said, do something. knowing in your heart that you do not act alone, but do so with the Spirit's help and blessing. Amen.